Hey, sports fans, PBnZ Sports Chaos. Look who's back from Aruba. It's PB, where he saw the Xander Bogaerts Walk of Fame. Is that what it is?
Yeah, he just sounds like a Hollywood star kind of thing on the ground. It's kind of cool, you know?
Nice.
Local guy.
All right.
Saw his house, too. Saw his house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, drove by it on a four-wheeler UTV.
Nice.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm enjoying my last Stoli and Red Bull because, as we know, Stoli will never be sold in America once again.
Good one.
All right, let's get into sports. A lot of stuff is happening, PB. The NFL news is heating up, as we know. We had the combine last week. Free agency starts next weekend. The quarterback carousel took some turns. We'll talk about that. Major League Baseball is actually back on. 24 hours ago, I thought there was not going to be a season. I really thought there'd be no season. They made some big strides. I don't know who won. We'll talk about that momentarily. Quick little 2-minute drill. Last Saturday, we had the second edition, one of the greatest rivalries in sports, UNC Duke. Duke lost in Coach K's last home game ever at Cameron Stadium down there in North Carolina. It was the fourth highest average price ticket in America over the last 12 years. Only 3 Super Bowls have ever beat it.
That's insane.
Isn't
and I
it?
heard students weren't selling their tickets, and I'm like, man, if you're in college and you're not taking $5,000 for a basketball ticket, you're kind of crazy.
$400 plus was the average ticket for that game. You're right. But by the way, they lost the game. Coach K was not happy. Matter of fact, they had a big ceremony afterwards. The fans were all cheering. He kind of berated them a little bit because he was not happy about the loss to his arch rival, UNC. By the way, he has his most losses ever to one team, to UNC, also the most wins as well. I think it's 51 and 49. So I saw an interesting thing by one of our followers today. Apparently, on the Mount Rushmore of most hated sports teams in America, Cowboys, Yankees, Duke basketball, Notre Dame football. What do you think?
I wouldn't have thought that for Duke. I could see the other ones, but man.
And I guess Coach Case crying didn't help either at the end of the game. We'll see. By the way, I happen to think it's a good thing they lost because guess what? PB, think about this for a minute. You're a player on that team. Every game from now on out there in the tournament could be the last game Coach K ever coaches, 40-something years of the institution. You don't want to be the guy that blew the game in his last game ever for a loss, right?
Good point.
That's a lot of pressure, but they got that one out of the way last week. Now they know they got to step up. So we'll see. Hey, by the way, college basketball March Madness steps up next week. We got the college basketball March Madness selection show on Sunday. We got the college championship week this week taking place. There's some awesome games so far. Unfortunately, my BC team I happen to like, they lost yesterday in overtime to your Miami Hurricane team. Now that you're a Miami local, that was a pretty good game. They lost at the buzzer on a breakaway layup, but it was a good action game. All right, speaking of basketball, last night, the Nets and the Philadelphia 76ers, they played their first game since the trade, Harden for Ben Simmons. And guess what? The Kyrie whiners they absolutely spanked the bully boys. Joel Embiid and the bullies from Philadelphia got their butts kicked by the Brooklyn team. I'm not an Embiid fan. I'm definitely not a Kyrie fan. I don't know what to think about that. I will say about this, though. Brooklyn did get their asses handed to them by the Celtics on Sunday. So maybe we're talking about the wrong teams. I don't know. Maybe it's the Celtics. We'll see. More to talk about in a few weeks on that. Hey, by the way, little hockey news for you Bruins fans. Pasta keeps it up. 27 goals since January 1st. He's the hottest goal scorer in the NHL. So, all right, PB, before we get to NFL, I'm sorry. MLB, they ended the lockout yesterday. I'm really, honest to God, 36 hours ago, I said, all the news I read is they're not going to play this season. Kyle Ravitch said it's going to be over. It's done. No games. And they found a way to make a resolution. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. They got the minimum salary up from $486 to $700,000. That's a good win, right? The owners won. They got 12 teams in the playoffs. I think that's a win-win for everybody. I don't care what the players say. I think it's a win-win for everybody. The fans want to see that. Don't you agree?
Yeah, 100%.
And no more pitcher bats. The NL has to have a DH going forward. Yes.
I like that one.
So those are the big things. But PB, here's what's going to happen now. So training camp starts Sunday. Season starts on April 7th. Thank goodness. Now we get to have Jackie Robinson Day on April 15th, 75th anniversary. That's a good thing. That would have been a bad thing they didn't have a game on that day. But over the next 3 weeks, you got 100+ major free agents out there that have to sign a contract with somebody. It's going to be a frenzy. NFL, which was going to be the hot topic over the next 2 weeks, right? May take a backseat to what's going to happen in MLB signings. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Are you looking forward to it, though?
To the season?
Yeah.
Of course.
Are you happy with that 162 games?
They're only going to miss what? A handful of 8 games. I think they're going to do a 154 game season, maybe.
No, they gave in. It's going to be 162. They're going to do double headers or little at the end.
Oh, okay. Are they still doing those 2 7-inning games for double headers like they did last year?
You know what? I think that was only during COVID. I think that's over. I don't think I heard. Good question. We'll have to check that out. I don't know. So we'll see.
Well, you think if they're going to have all those extra double headers, you think they might keep that rule in place just to.
I don't know. Maybe traditionalist. I'm a little bit of a traditionalist, but I happen to like it. I know it's what the college softball does. I like it. It's a good rule. It's a lot of managerial strategy in that.
Yeah.
We'll see. All right. NFL news. Let's get into NFL news. Hey, first thing in the NFL news, Calvin Ridley, 1 year suspension for gambling, $1,500. Good thing or bad thing for 1 year to be suspended?
It's a lot. What did he bet the 1,500 on?
He picked, I think, 5 games, a couple of parlays, including his Falcons. He was not playing for at the time. He was on the inactive list. He picked them to win, by the way. He didn't bet against them, but it's $1,500 in 5 games. He loses the whole season.
I don't think you can bet your own sport that you're in. That's just like, it's like insider trading in a way. So, I mean, if he was betting on, another sport, college basketball tournament or something like that, that's one thing. But to bet on your own sport that you're,
I just say this, PB, here's what I got to say about that. Every advertisement now, anytime you watch a football game, any sport by that matter, you got DraftKings, you got every other thing going on about betting, right? It's legalized everywhere. There's a couple stadiums that have actual betting parlors inside the stadium. It's a fact of life. So the players, by the way, they do it anyways. I heard this on Get Up. Marcus Spears said, we bet anyways. So what the heck?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, they should stick to like fantasy football or something like that. Bet on you're betting on players basically. But to bet, I still think it's, you can, buying stocks is also legal, but you can't.
I would say don't bet on your own team then.
But you can't, right, well, yeah, exactly. That's too much insider information. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of. So, all right.
All right, hey, NFL Combine took place last week. Here's the big news. I'll give it to you real quick. Ladies, don't be disappointed, but Kenny Pickett only is 8.5 inches. Hand-wise. Ouch. Apparently that's too small in the NFL for a hand. Anyways, for a quarterback. So we'll see. No quarterback really separated themselves, but Malik Willis from Liberty stepped up a little bit. He's now projected to maybe be a first-round pick other than Kenny Pickett. We'll see. Jordan Davis, you know who he is?
I do not.
The big tackle from Georgia, inside defensive tackle. 6'4", 341. He set a record. Fastest 40-yard dash for a man that big of 4.78. That's moving.
Wow, that is, yeah.
Matter of fact, according to Valesco, that's faster than you've ever run in a 40. So good move by him.
Probably, yeah.
All right. Hey, a lot of speed, by the way, PB. Listen to this. 3 guys were under 4.3 in the 40. First time ever that there's been more than one guy that doing 4.3. 6 running backs ran less than 4.4. That's the first time ever for that. There's a lot of speed. And by the way, it's electronically timed. These things is very, very sharp. That means it's legitimate time. So it's not phony baloney stuff. So BC's lineman, I think he's an offensive tackle, if I'm not mistaken, Zion Johnson. He won the bench press contest. 32 reps at 225. That's not a bad bench, huh?
I'd say.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to the real news, PB. Aaron Rodgers, who was on our show, in theory, a couple weeks ago, and it played out exactly like we said it would, didn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, they got a deal done it. 4 years.
And
too.
Devontae Adams signed the franchise agreement contract, right? Or for now, anyways. They might still sign him to a long. They have to, PB. They have to sign him to a long-term contract, don't they?
They do.
You
They do
can't
now,
pay
yeah.
him that contract this year.
Yeah,
They're in
especially if they
trouble,
know
right?
Yeah, especially if they know they can play with Aaron, for the next few years. But there's only so much money to go around there in Green Bay. I mean,
Speaking of that, supposedly the other rumor with Aaron staying was he's going to be the highest paid player, excuse me, in NFL currently, which right now it's Mahomes at what, 350 million, $450 million. So how does he get to that at 8 years old? They're going to pay him $100 million a year?
no, I mean, you're talking about Aaron, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So how
they're
does he
gonna
get
pay-
ahead of Mahomes to be the highest paid player in the game?
Right. Well, there's two sides to that equation. One is the largest contract, and then the highest pay could just be your salary in any one given particular year, right? Because you could go through a year and say the amount of money that I'm actually making this year is more than Mahomes, which makes me I'm the highest paid player in the NFL this year, but my contract value might be higher if you're someone else. So you got to kind of
Exactly, which means he has to be paid $50 million. That means they're going to be in trouble on the salary cap.
right, exactly. And I think his cap hit for this year is like 40 something, right? 43 or 44 million or something like that.
Before he said he was going to stay, which meant he would re-sign a new contract because this was last year.
Yeah. I mean, there's only so much money to go around there, and you got to pay.
I mean, they
Devontae
can sign him
Adams.
for less this year, but that means what, they're going to pay him $75 million next year?
No, I think that I don't know about the long term implications of that contract, but I thought the actual money he was going to make this year and next year was only like 25 million because he's getting a signing bonus, he's getting guaranteed money.
And
So
you can
I
push it
think,
out over the 4 years if he stays. It's a 4-year contract.
yeah, so I think his hit is 43 this year, or could be 43, but his actual paychecks will add up to about 25.
All right. At the end of the day, one way or another, it's either going to bust a team in 2 years or 3 years from now or not. So is his window 2 years to win a Super Bowl?
I mean, yeah, I would say. I mean,
And
they
if he does
decided.
not win a Super Bowl in 2 years, or if he stays to 4, which I doubt he will, is his legacy tainted? I mean, he only has 1 Super Bowl title. Eli Manning has 2.
I know. It's hard. I think you can still be a very productive quarterback in this league. I mean,
legacy. I'm talking legacy.
I don't know. It's hard. I got to see what he does these next 2 years. But no, I'm going to say no. Because they're going to make the playoffs. The NFC is getting weaker by the minute. Let's see what he does. I don't think
it's not Super Bowl or bust for him, in your opinion.
Well, it is from what Green Bay is doing perspective with the contract that they're signing and they're keeping him there. Yes, it is. But But that doesn't mean his legacy will be changed if he doesn't.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm on the fence. I know.
All right. Speaking of other legacies, Russell Wilson, we didn't think this would happen either, but he's gone, got traded to Denver. Denver gave away like a crap load, 3 players, 2 of them are starters, 2 first rounds, 2 seconds, and a 5th. They only have 6 draft picks over the next 2 years. So speaking of Super Bowl or bust, is Denver Super Bowl or bust in the next 2 years?
I think they built a decent enough core in Denver that this trade actually makes sense for both teams. It makes sense for Denver because even though they're giving up those assets for the next couple of years in the draft, they have a pretty good core. Maybe they pick up a free agent here or there, but with the young talent that they have at wide receiver, right, including guys like Patrick and Judy, including Javonte Williams, who they got last year as a rookie. Their defense is stout. I think this team still is going to benefit because the one missing piece in Denver for the last since Peyton Manning left has been the quarterback, and they haven't been able to solve that problem. And they've been wasting their draft picks anyways every year on some other random quarterback that doesn't work out. So for that reason, I think it's a good move for Denver, and I don't think it's Super Bowl bust. I think they can get into the playoffs. They do have the whole AFC factor to contend with. Russell Wilson's still probably the third best quarterback in that league. You still got Mahomes and you still got Herbert ahead of him, right? And then you have guys like Lamar Jackson. You have guys like Joe Burrow now, right? You have guys
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen. And at best, he's the sixth, maybe seventh best quarterback in the AFC.
I would just say this. So the reason why I say Super Bowl bust is because they only get 6 draft picks over the next 2 seasons. You're going to lose guys over free agency. The guys you just mentioned who are young right now, their rookie contracts are going to expire. They're going to be up for renewals at much higher levels. You're not going to replace those guys with only 6 draft picks. So
right,
we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Which makes me think you made a good point. Now that Khalil Mack is going for the Bears to the Chargers, Denver even has more pressure because the Chargers, I think, just jumped over the Broncos no matter what.
They're right on the cusp. That team is, they kind of fell apart last year, but there's no question that the Chargers right now should be the second place team in that division, maybe even the first place team in that division. So I agree with you. It's a challenging division. You got great talent at quarterback. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But on the other end of this equation are the Seahawks, who I think are putting themselves in a rebuilding mode. They got all these assets now, right? For stock for the future. They obviously are going to need to get a quarterback. And Drew Lock he's probably the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. So I'm like writing him off already. He's not the answer, but they are in a rebuild mode. And by the way, they got a first round draft pick in that trade. Noah Fant was a first round pick, wasn't he? Late first round?
Yeah. So essentially, you got 3 first rounders. Yeah,
I mean, and Fant's already proven that he's not that bad of a tight end. He's a pretty good tight end with nobody throwing to him. So you can, if they can concentrate and focus on getting a quarterback somehow, some way. I don't know if it's going to be in the draft. I don't think that the talent is there for guys like, Matt Corral or Kenny Pickett or any of those guys, but they might not even be able to get even the second round.
PB, I'll just add this. If Pete Carroll's the coach, they can't be rebuilding with a rookie quarterback. He's 71 years old. They got to find another established quarterback today.
Yeah. And with Jimmy G, would they trade Jimmy G in the same division to a team like Seattle? They probably wouldn't even do that.
Well, funny you should ask. Let's talk about this for a minute. Before we talk Jimmy G, though. Carson Wentz went from the Colts to the Washington Commanders. I know you're not a big Carson Wentz fan, so you don't think it's a big deal. But the Colts don't have a quarterback either. So Seattle, Colts, both teams have some talent that they could contend for playoff spots, and maybe even in the case of the Colts, Super Bowl if they had a quarterback. And I'll throw another name out there, Deshaun Watson. One other guy, Kirk Cousins in his last year this year, his contract, he's paid over $46 million, third highest cap hit this year. So you got Deshaun, Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo. Seattle, the Colts. You want to throw Tampa Bay in the mix, what happens?
Yeah, I mean, the Colts, say they're in the same position. I mean, obviously Sam Ehlinger is not the answer to your quarterback concerns, right? And right now he's number 1 on the depth chart. So, and to me, you drive someone, they're just basically, especially in this class, they're just another Sam Ehlinger, right? At that point, I mean,
Kenny Pickett's a better passer than Sam Ehlinger. But he's a passer. With his little hands, he's a passer.
He's a passer, and with Jonathan Taylor running in that offense, you might be okay. But still, you can't expect a guy like Pickett or even a guy like Corral or whatever to come in and just all of a sudden make this team a Super Bowl contender. To your point, just like we mentioned with Seattle, they got to go out and get somebody that can play right now.
Right.
So do they go after a Jimmy G? Right? Do they go out, or could we see someone that's been a backup but been somewhat formidable, like a Mitch Trubisky?
Oh, you read my mind.
Step into this role, because you got Mitch Trubisky, who was obviously drafted. I think he was number 10 overall. The Bears traded up to get him. Backed up
No, he
Josh.
was drafted fourth. He was picked before Mahomes, remember?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think Mahomes was actually 10 in that
Yes,
draft.
that's right. He was
Yeah.
four, Mahomes was 10.
Yeah, so they traded up to pick him. And yeah, imagine that, Trubisky over Mahomes. But he's shown me enough when he's playing. He can throw the ball. He's kind of unique in his skill sets. He's got a decent arm. He wins games.
Speaking of that, Mr. Trubisky, he's won 60% of his games in 3 years, and he's been to a playoff twice.
So he's the type of guy with the experience that could go into a team that's got that core built around them, like the Colts. Seattle, I think, would be a little bit more challenging to do that, but certainly with the Colts, I think that's a good fit.
A good fit. A wild rumor right now is the Giants with Brian Daboll and the GM that came from Buffalo. They want to bring Trubisky over
and give up on Daniel Jones.
He was the backup last year to Josh Allen.
Right, but they're going to give up on Daniel Jones. I heard that they were going to give Daniel. He's the starter. He's their man. They're going to give him another year.
I think the ownership wants it because they're paying the money. But I think at the end of the day, the new leadership says, "Hey, we know what Trubisky can do." So We'll see. We'll see. I got another name for you. Marcus Mariota would be a good fit in Indianapolis.
Yeah, he's another guy. I mean, he did great when he was in Tennessee. I wouldn't doubt that. That would be a decent move.
So real quick before we wrap up, what about this? Deshaun Watson.
I don't know if people are going to be willing to take a gamble on him. I mean, there's clearly teams out there that need quarterbacks, but they also don't want to, ruin the face of their franchise at the same time, So that's a tough one. And he's been out of the league now for a year.
He missed the whole year. He missed 1 year.
Yeah. So that plays into it as well.
Well, would you rather have him or Colin Kaepernick, who hasn't played in about 7 years?
Yeah, I mean, Deshaun, of course. I mean, no questions there. But you still got the Steelers, you still got the Saints. That Saints are probably in the better shape out of all those teams you mentioned: the Steelers, Saints, Bucks, Seahawks, Colts.
Saints are in trouble though. There's $71 million over the cap. They got to cut some experienced players.
Yeah, they are in trouble.
That's why Sean left.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see where these three quarterbacks will go because you got Malik Willis, like you said, Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral. Could one of those three guys actually start first game of the NFL this year?
I like Kenny. I think he's a decent player. He's played the most games in college. He's played over 40 games. So
all right. So what if Kenny Pickett stays in Pittsburgh, goes to the Steelers? He could compete with Mason Rudolph, right?
I think that's an ideal fit. That's an ideal fit for him. Pittsburgh fans would love it. They've seen the kid play before. He's a kind of a Pittsburgh guy. I think it would be ideal if he can make the roster and be in overcome. He's going to be better than Mason Rudolph. The wild card is Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins has talent. He's just got an Ohio State brain, which means he has no brain.
We know how that goes.
Yeah. All right, PB, man. All right, hey, we're going to do our PBnZ Sports Chaos March Madness. I'll put it together as soon as the brackets come out on Sunday night, and we'll talk more about that. Anything else to wrap it up, PB?
No, we have to talk about the free agents for football too. All these free agents and where they're going to land. So I don't know if that's a separate show, but we want to
next week. We'll hit that next week.
All right, sounds good.
All right, buddy. Nice to have you back.
All right. Thanks, man.